My name is Maxine Cusimano, and I'm 41 years old. I live in Chicago with my boyfriend, Daniel Harper, and my 16-year-old daughter, Lily. What I'm about to tell you happened 15 months ago, but I still feel it in my bones, like a bruise that never completely fades. Because that night didn't just steal money from my daughter. It stole the last excuse I'd been using to protect my family's illusion. It started as an ordinary weekday evening, the kind you don't remember unless something terrible happens. Daniel and I were downstairs, half cleaning up after dinner, half talking about the weekend. He was leaning against the counter, scrolling through his phone, while I stood at the sink, rinsing plates, thinking about work emails I still needed to answer. Upstairs, Lily was in her room, like always. She liked her space, her routines, her quiet. She'd been that way since she was little. Careful, organized, and strangely serious about responsibility in a way that made people call her mature, as if that were a compliment instead of a warning sign. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Panic. They hit the stairs hard, like someone was running from something. Daniel's head lifted immediately. I dried my hands on a towel without thinking, my stomach already tightening. Lily burst into the living room like she'd been shoved out of a nightmare. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, her lips trembling like she was trying not to cry and failing. "Mom," she said, voice thin and shaking, "my safe is gone." At first, my brain refused to process it. "Your safe?" I repeated, as if the word itself needed clarification. "My mini safe," she insisted, and the tears finally broke loose. "The pink one, the one in my desk drawer. It's gone. All my money is gone." Daniel stepped forward. "Lily, slow down. What do you mean it's gone? Did you move it?" "No," she cried, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. "I didn't move it. It was there last night. I checked it before bed. I always check it." That was true. Lily didn't just save money. She treated saving like a ritual. 6 years ago, when she was 10, she told me she wanted to learn how grown-ups handled money. That was when I bought her that little safe, about the size of a shoebox, with a keypad and a key backup, the kind that makes a kid feel like they're guarding treasure. And she was. Over the years, she'd tucked away birthday cash, babysitting money, holiday envelopes from relatives, even spare change she'd collect, like it mattered. She wrote amounts down in a small notebook, tallying it like she was running a tiny bank. When she said the safe was gone, I felt the air leave my chest. "How much was in it?" Daniel asked gently. Lily's voice broke. $13,200. I stared at her. "Lily, are you sure?" She nodded so hard it looked painful. "I counted it 2 weeks ago and wrote it down. I was saving for a car and college and..." Her words tangled. "Mom, it's all gone." Daniel and I moved at the same time. We ran upstairs, Lily right behind us, her breaths coming in sharp, uneven bursts. Her room looked like a storm had already hit it. Clothes half pulled from drawers, books crooked on the shelves, the desk drawer hanging open like a mouth, left mid-scream. I flipped the mattress corner, checked under the bed. Daniel opened the closet, moved shoes aside, checked behind storage bins. Lily knelt by her desk, hands shaking as she dug through papers like the safe might magically appear beneath them. For 25 minutes we searched, and the longer we looked, the more sick I felt, because there was nothing. No safe, no bag, no broken lock. The windows were still latched. The door alarm hadn't gone off. Her laptop sat right on her desk. Her iPad was plugged in like usual. If this was a break-in, it made no sense. What thief breaks into a house and steals only a small safe from a teenager's room while leaving everything else? Lily sank onto her bed, tears slipping silently down her cheeks now. "It was there last night," she whispered. "I swear it was." I sat beside her, forcing calm into my voice. "Okay, we'll figure it out. Maybe you moved it and forgot, or..." "I didn't," she said, sharper now, because fear was turning into desperation. "I didn't move it." Daniel stood near the doorway, arms folded, his jaw tight. He wasn't panicking like Lily, but I knew that look on his face. He was running through possibilities. He was calculating. He was already on the edge of asking the question none of us wanted to say out loud. Then Lily's eyes shifted, like something clicked in her head. "Mom," she said slowly, "Aunt Brittany came here this morning." The name hit me like cold water. My older sister, Brittany. I shook my head instantly. No, honey. Lily swallowed. She was here. I opened the door for her. She said she wanted to see me." Daniel's voice was careful. "What time?" "Like a little after 8. Lily wiped her face. "I was making breakfast. She came in, talked for a minute, and then I went into the kitchen. When I came back, she was gone." My heart started beating harder, not because I believed it, because I didn't want to. Brittany was Brittany. Loud, impulsive, dramatic. The kind of person who treated other people's lives like props in her own story. But she was still my sister. My parents raised me to believe family loyalty was a rule, not a choice. "Lily," I said, trying to sound firm, "we can't accuse your aunt of stealing. That's serious." Lily's voice got small again. "I'm not accusing. I'm just telling you what happened." And then she hesitated, like she didn't want to add what came next. "What?" I asked softly. Lily looked down at her hands. 12 days ago, when Aunt Brittany came for dinner, she went into my room. She saw the safe. She asked about it. She asked how much I had saved. My throat tightened. Daniel's eyes met mine. There was something in them that made me feel defensive before he even spoke. "We should check the cameras," he said quietly. We did have cameras, front door and driveway. We installed them after a package theft last year, and mostly I forgot they existed because nothing ever happened. But now the idea of using them felt like betrayal. Like I was crossing some invisible line that families weren't supposed to cross, even when the evidence was screaming at you. I shook my head. "Daniel, don't." "Maxine," he said, using my name the way he did when he was trying to anchor me. "This isn't about your sister. This is about Lily." Lily looked between us, trembling, and I hated that she had to watch her mother hesitate. Still, part of me clung to denial, because denial was safer than the truth. That's when Daniel said something that cracked the seal on a memory I'd been trying to bury. "Don't you remember what happened 4 days ago at your parents' house?" My stomach dropped, because I did remember. The way my parents called and said it was urgent. The way the living room felt tense the moment we walked in. The way Brittany sat there with that peculiar smile, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath, like a warning wrapped in lipstick. And then her announcement, like she was offering us the honor of funding her fantasy. "I'm getting married in 3 months," she'd said, "and I need to borrow $35,000 from you for the wedding." The number had knocked the breath out of me. Daniel had gone still beside me. And my parents had looked at me like the answer was already decided. Like I was just supposed to nod, sign the check, and call it love. Now, standing in Lily's room, staring at the empty desk drawer where the safe should have been, that memory didn't feel like a separate event anymore. It felt like the beginning of a pattern finally reaching its ugliest conclusion. My hands were cold. My mouth tasted like metal. I looked at Lily, my child, shaking, humiliated, heartbroken in her own home. And I realized something terrible. If I didn't check the cameras, I wasn't protecting Brittany. I was abandoning Lily. So I swallowed hard, nodded once, and said the words that made my chest ache. "Okay, we'll check the footage." I was still praying I'd be wrong. But deep down, I already knew I wasn't. The footage loaded slowly, like it was dragging its feet, giving me one last chance to turn away. I didn't. Daniel held my phone steady while Lily stood close to my side, her fingers gripping the hem of my sweater so tightly I could feel the tremor in her hands. The timestamp blinked onto the screen, 8:10 a.m. There she was. Brittany. My sister stood at our front door, hair perfectly styled, phone in hand, tapping her foot impatiently, as if she were doing us a favor by showing up. Lily appeared a moment later on screen, opening the door, smiling politely the way she'd been taught. Brittany stepped inside, and when she left, 16 minutes later, My heart dropped straight through my chest. She wasn't empty-handed anymore. She carried a small pink bag, big enough to hold a mini safe. Lily made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Daniel swore under his breath. I felt like someone had poured concrete into my veins. There was no mistaking it. No angles to argue, no shadow tricks. Brittany had walked in with nothing and walked out with something that didn't belong to her. I turned the phone off. The silence that followed was unbearable. "I'll get it back," I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. I crouched in front of Lily and took her face gently in my hands. "I promise you. I don't know how yet, but I will." She nodded, tears streaming, trying to be brave. Daniel straightened. "We need to talk to her, now." I hesitated for half a second, just long enough to hate myself for it, then nodded. "She's probably at my parents' house." I called Brittany. She answered on the third ring, cheerful as ever. "Hey, Max, what's up?" "Where are you?" I asked. "At Mom and Dad's," she said, suspiciously quick. "Why?" "I want to talk about the wedding money," I lied. "We're on our way." There was a pause, then, "Really? You changed your mind?" "We'll talk there." We drove in silence. Lily sat in the back seat, staring out the window. Daniel's jaw was clenched so tight I worried he'd crack a tooth. I focused on the road because if I let myself think too hard, I might have turned around or exploded. When we arrived, my parents were already in the living room with Brittany, laughing like nothing was wrong. The moment they saw our faces, the mood shifted. My mother stood up. "Maxine? What's going on?" I didn't answer her. I walked straight up to Brittany. "Why were you at my house this morning?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "You heard me." Brittany laughed nervously. "I just stopped by to see Lily. I miss her." Lily stepped forward then, her voice shaking but determined. "Aunt Brittany, please give me back my safe. And my money." The room froze. Brittany's smile vanished. Her face hardened like a switch had been flipped. "What did you just say?" she snapped. Lily swallowed. "You took it. You were the only one there." Before I could react, Brittany lunged forward and slapped Lily across the face. The sound echoed through the room, sharp, violent, unreal. Everything inside me snapped. I grabbed Brittany's wrist and yanked her away from my daughter. "Don't you ever touch my child again." Daniel stepped between them instinctively, positioning himself in front of Lily. "Back away, now." My father finally stood up, his face red. "What the hell is going on here?" "What's going on," I said, shaking with rage, "is your daughter stole from mine and just assaulted her." "That's ridiculous," Brittany shouted. "She's making it up." My mother rushed to Brittany's side, completely ignoring Lily's red cheek. "Maxine, control your daughter. She shouldn't say things like that." That was it. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "What are you doing?" my father barked. "I'm reporting a theft and an assault," I said clearly. "A family member stole over $13,000 from my minor daughter and slapped her when confronted." The room fell into stunned silence. Brittany went pale. "You wouldn't dare." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Watch me." The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female, took statements from everyone. They watched the footage. They photographed Lily's cheek. Brittany denied everything until the officer replayed the video one more time. Her shoulders slumped. "I took it," she muttered. "I needed the money." At the station, she cried. My parents begged. They said it was a mistake, that family shouldn't involve the law. The officer turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." Brittany screamed. My mother sobbed. My father looked at me like I'd killed someone. 10 days later, they came to my house. Brittany's eyes were red. "Please," she whispered. "I'll pay it back. Drop the charges." "She slapped Lily," I said. My parents didn't argue that point. They just said I was ruining Brittany's future. I shook my head. "No, she did that herself." When they left, my father turned and said, "You're no longer my daughter." The words hurt, but not as much as watching my parents comfort Brittany while my child stood there in silence. The court date came 6 weeks later. The evidence spoke for itself. Brittany was convicted. 14 months, suspended sentence. Fines, restitution, mandatory counseling. Her fiance left her. She lost her job. She moved back in with my parents. And suddenly, the family story changed. I was the villain. The sister who called the police over family business until the truth spread. One by one, relatives apologized. Others never spoke to me again. Lily started therapy. She healed, slowly, bravely. One night she asked, "Mom, did you do the right thing?" I held her close and said, "Always, even when it hurts." Because sometimes protecting your child means letting everything else burn. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant, a strange mix that made my stomach churn the moment we walked in. 6 weeks had passed since the night everything exploded at my parents' house, but the tension hadn't faded. If anything, it had thickened, settling into every corner of my life like dust I couldn't wipe away. Daniel walked beside me, quiet but steady. Lily stayed close, her hand wrapped around mine, her grip firm in that way children use when they're trying to be brave for the adults who are supposed to protect them. The courtroom was already half full. Family. Some sat on our side. Others avoided my eyes and took seats behind Brittany, clustered around my parents like a shield. My mother didn't look at me once. My father stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched so tightly I wondered if he could even breathe. Brittany sat at the defense table, hair pulled back, eyes red, shoulders slumped like she wanted to look small enough to disappear. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered Lily's face when that slap landed. The judge entered, stern, composed, unreadable. "This court will now hear the case of the state versus Brittany Cusimano," she announced. "Charges: second-degree theft and assault on a minor." The words echoed louder than I expected. The prosecutor laid out the timeline, calmly, methodically. The missing safe. The amount, $13,200. The security footage. Lily's statement. Brittany's confession at the police station. When the video played, the room went silent. There she was again on the screen. My sister. Walking into my home empty-handed and leaving with a bag that didn't belong to her. I heard a few gasps behind me. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I didn't turn around. Lily squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. When it was Brittany's turn to speak, she stood slowly, hands trembling. "Your Honor," she said, her voice breaking, "I took the money. I didn't think it was that much at first. I needed help for my wedding, and when I saw the safe, I made a terrible decision." She paused, swallowing hard. "I also admit that I slapped Lily. I was angry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm deeply ashamed." My mother sobbed quietly. My father stared at the floor. Brittany's attorney emphasized that this was her first offense, that she planned to repay the money, that she had been under stress, that she was family. The judge listened without expression. Then she spoke. "Miss Cusimano," she said firmly, "you abused a position of trust. You stole a significant sum from a minor and resorted to violence when confronted. Family ties do not excuse criminal behavior." The sentence came down like a gavel to the chest. 14 months, suspended, a fine, full restitution of the $13,200, mandatory anger management and rehabilitation. Then the judge turned to Daniel and me. "And to the parents," she added, "this court recognizes your responsibility to protect your child. Violence is never ideal, but context matters." The hearing ended quickly after that. Justice, served clean and cold. Outside the courthouse, the air felt sharper, brighter, too bright. We walked past Brittany and my parents without a word. My mother reached out, hesitated, then pulled her hand back. My father didn't even look at Lily. I felt something close, not with anger, but with clarity. 10 days later, the fallout began. Brittany's fiancé left her. I heard it through a cousin who called in a hushed voice. He said he couldn't marry someone with a criminal record, especially not for stealing from a child. Soon after, Brittany lost her job at the financial firm. Theft charges don't pair well with managing other people's money. She moved back in with my parents, and that was when the phone calls started. Uncles, Aunts, cousins. Maxine, how could you do this? You really sent your own sister to court? It was just money. Family forgives. At first, I tried to explain. I told them the amount wasn't just a few hundred. I told them about the slap. I told them about the video. Most of them didn't listen. They'd already chosen a version that made them comfortable. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel found me sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at my phone. "You don't have to fight them all," he said gently. "I know," I whispered. "I just didn't expect it to hurt this much." He sat beside me and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you people who were never really on your side. A week later, Lily started therapy. She didn't want to at first. Said she was fine. Said she didn't want to talk about it. But the nightmares told a different story. Slowly, she opened up about the humiliation, the fear, the confusion of being hurt by someone she was taught to trust. I watched my daughter confront emotions most adults avoid their entire lives, and I realized something that haunted me. My parents never once asked Lily if she was okay. Not once. They asked about Brittany's future, about her record, about her stress, but never about the child who was stolen from, never about the child who was struck. That realization cut deeper than any insult. Months passed. The truth began to surface whether people wanted it to or not. Court records don't lie. One by one, relatives reached out. Apologies awkward but sincere. I was wrong. I didn't know everything. I should have asked you first. Others doubled down and disappeared from my life entirely. I stopped chasing them. One evening, while washing dishes, Lily asked quietly, "Mom, do you think Grandpa and Grandma hate us?" I turned off the faucet and knelt in front of her. "No, sweetheart. I think they're angry because facing the truth hurts." She nodded slowly. "I don't want to see Aunt Brittany again." "You don't have to," I said. "Not ever." That was the moment I understood what boundaries really meant. Not punishment, not revenge. Protection. The cost was heavy. I lost my parents. I lost my sister. I lost the illusion that blood guarantees loyalty. But what I gained was something I'd never had before. Peace. The kind that doesn't come from silence, but from knowing you didn't betray yourself or your child to keep other people comfortable. Life didn't snap back into place after the verdict. There was no clean reset, no satisfying montage where everyone learned a lesson and apologized at the same time. Instead, things changed quietly, unevenly, like a house settling after an earthquake. The first thing that changed was the silence. My parents stopped calling entirely. No holidays, no birthdays, no just checking in. Brittany vanished too, except through rumors that drifted back to me like smoke. She was angry, bitter, blaming me for everything that went wrong in her life, as if my refusal to lie for her had somehow reached into her hands and made her steal. At first, the silence hurt more than the shouting ever had. I kept catching myself reaching for my phone, wanting to tell my mother something small. Lily's grades, a recipe I'd tried, a memory from childhood. Only to remember that those doors were closed. Not locked, closed, intentionally. Daniel noticed before I said anything. "You don't have to grieve them out loud," he told me one night as we lay in bed. "But you are grieving." He was right. I wasn't just mourning my parents. I was mourning the version of family I'd believed in my whole life. The one where love meant endurance, where loyalty meant silence, where protecting the peace mattered more than protecting the vulnerable. That illusion died the night Brittany raised her hand to my daughter, and once it was gone, I couldn't unsee what had always been there. The second thing that changed was Lily. Therapy wasn't a miracle cure, but it gave her language, words for fear, for betrayal, for anger that didn't make her feel ashamed. She stopped blaming herself, stopped wondering what she'd done wrong to deserve it. One afternoon, she came home from a session and said, "My therapist says it's okay to be mad at people who hurt you, even if they're family." I smiled and hugged her. "Your therapist is very smart." Lily grew quieter in some ways, stronger in others. She learned how to draw lines, how to say no, how to trust her instincts. Watching her do that was both beautiful and painful, because I realized how long it had taken me to learn the same lesson. The third thing that changed was me. I stopped explaining myself. When relatives called to reopen the conversation, I didn't argue. I didn't justify. I didn't beg to be understood. I simply said, "You know the facts. I won't discuss this anymore." Some people respected that. Others drifted away. A few surprised me. An uncle who'd once called me heartless sent a message late one night. "I read the court documents. I'm sorry I didn't believe you." An aunt dropped off cookies without asking to come in. She didn't say much, just hugged Lily and whispered, "You didn't deserve any of this." Those gestures didn't fix everything, but they helped. Months passed, seasons changed. Life filled itself back in with ordinary moments. School projects, grocery lists, late dinners, quiet laughter on the couch. One evening while we were eating, Lily asked, "Mom, did we lose our family?" I set my fork down and thought carefully before answering. "No," I said. "We learned who our family really is." She nodded, considering that, then said, "I think I like it better this way. It's quieter." I laughed softly. Me too. About a year after the trial, I heard that Brittany was still living with my parents, working part-time, angry at the world, still insisting I'd ruined her life. Maybe, in her version of the story, I had. But in reality, the consequences she faced weren't mine to carry. They were hers. I didn't celebrate her downfall. I didn't feel smug. Mostly, I felt distant, like someone watching a storm from behind reinforced glass. One afternoon, while cleaning out old photos on my phone, I came across a picture from years ago. Brittany and me at a cafe, her smiling brightly, me looking exhausted, eyes rimmed red. That was the day she'd asked for one last favor. Then I deleted it, not out of anger, out of peace, because holding on to it no longer served me. That night, as I lay in bed listening to the quiet hum of the house, something finally settled in my chest. Boundaries aren't cruel. They aren't punishment. They aren't rejection. They are clarity. For years, I confused love with sacrifice and silence with harmony. I thought being a good sister, a good daughter, meant absorbing other people's damage so they didn't have to. But love without accountability isn't love. It's permission. And permission is what allowed Brittany to believe she could take from a child and still be protected. I won't teach my daughter that lesson. I'll teach her this instead. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to tell the truth. You are allowed to walk away, even from family, when staying means becoming smaller. 15 months have passed since the safe disappeared. Lily's money was returned. Her savings are now in a bank account with safeguards and lessons and transparency. She's planning for college. She laughs more easily again. Daniel and I are stronger, not because this tested us, but because we chose the same side when it mattered. As for my parents, I don't know if we'll ever speak again. Maybe one day they'll look back and realize the moment they truly lost me wasn't when I called the police. It was when they chose to defend the person who hurt a child instead of the child who was hurt. Until then, I live with the choice I made, and I don't regret it. So now I ask you, honestly, did I destroy my family? Or did I finally stop pretending that silence and sacrifice were the same as love?